Registered? Awesome. Good morning. We will be getting started in about 4 minutes. Hello to everyone. It's 12 noon, so I'm going to get started with today's webinar from the Maine Downtown Center. This is Ann Ball, Program Director here at Maine Development Foundation. And all of you are on mute, and you also should see on the right-hand side of your screen, I think in most of your cases, a chat feature. Please feel free to type in any questions that you may have during the webinar right there, and I will respond to those. So I'm going to be giving the webinar today, and I have a few pieces of housekeeping. Let's see. Let me get going here. So as I said, you're all on mute. After today's session, we will email you a PDF of the slides from the webinar, and we will also email you a very quick 5-question survey that it would be great if you could complete. I am recording the session today. The session will be also available to you as the other ones were as a recording if you need it. Today's session is on promotion, which is one leg of the stool of the 4-point approach. Today you are going to learn how to easily accomplish some incremental improvements in your downtowns that will really add and enhance your sense of place. Some of today's content is basic, while some of the other content are really meant for our more mature communities. While you're on the webinar, think creatively, have fun, write down anything exciting that comes to mind, borrow ideas, and get inspired to take on your next promotional event. Promotion, as I said, is one part of the National Main Street 4-point approach, and will cover many aspects of promotion, including special events, image building events, and retail-focused events. And for those of you that have been on our previous webinars, I do want to let you know that the first 10 minutes is similar to the way the other 4 started, and then we will dive into the content on promotion that should be new to everyone. As you know, downtowns really have the ability to rekindle community pride, and promotions really is more than festivals and parades, and it's really a way to strengthen your downtown's marketability. We have a number of great participants on the webinar today. I see from Rockland and Saco and our Maine Arts Commission, who does a lot of work surrounding art walks and things like that around the state. So we have a lot of experts on the webinar, and please feel free to chime in using that chat feature. We're specifically talking about the refresh, which really is because the National Main Street Center is updating their 35-year-old 4-point approach. And it really still provides a very solid framework, but it shouldn't be the primary focus of the work. Specifically, I'll start with a little high-level stuff. The Maine Development Foundation is a nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization founded in 1978 that really drives sustainable long-term growth in the state of Maine. We work on secondary degree attainment, workforce development, leadership training, and we serve as the home to the Maine Downtown Center. The Maine Downtown Center was created in 1999 by the Maine legislature, and it serves as the state coordinator for the National Main Street Center program. And we have National Main Streets and Maine Downtown Networks as part of our program right here in Maine, and we are supported by a passionate advisory council that are all volunteers. We have 10 national Main Street communities and 18 Maine Downtown networks. And then we also have 11 communities that we've been working with on a community engagement program called Making Headway in Your Community. So as I said, this is Maine's headquarters for the National Main Street program, which really began in 1977 and has really grown into one of the most comprehensive programs for downtown revitalization in the country. And the National Main Street approach is really preservation-based economic development. So let's dive into the Main Street 4-point approach. You can see on the right of your screen economic vitality, design, organization, and promotion. And today we're focusing on promotion, which if you go over to the quality of life left side is really a lot about the social aspects of your downtown. And the refreshed Main Street approach has 3 tightly knit integrated components, including community visioning and a market understanding, which is really considered the inputs, and transformational strategies, which the communities come up with, and then implementation and measurement of those strategies. And here's a way to look at that with the inputs, the community visioning, and the market understanding, and the outputs being what we're measuring, quantitative as well as qualitative. And really remembering that this whole Main Street approach requires a broad and strategic initiative in your downtown. It also requires a great deal of collaboration in order to be recognized as a visionary and leadership-based organization in your downtown. So the visioning part of the process, this is really the teamwork. It's engaging, and you bring a team and your community together, set up the process. Everyone can participate, and you identify what you're passionate about, what inspires you or is visionary. One example of a community vision might be a community that decides they want to become a regional arts and cultural hub of some sort. The visioning process we are working on in more detail to be able to share with the communities through what the National Main Street Center is supplying us with. But we really want to be able to give the local organizations the tools to be able to figure out how to do a community visioning process. And then the communities need to create those transformational strategies. So in the example of a community that wants to become an art and cultural hub, a short-term strategy could be to do a public mural program or engage local students, art students in a project in your downtown. And a long-term strategy could be something like developing a form-based planning code to promote housing for arts and cultural workers, providing a live workspace without requiring special permits. So the strategies will align with the 4-point approach, and the 4-point approach framework really is how you bring in the transformational strategies. And so the strategies support the 4-point approach. And then you have to implement and measure everything. And this is new for Main Street, to really think about the impact and being able to show visible results in your downtowns. You are going to focus on actions that can be achieved, things that can energize your community, but also show short-term progress and results. And you may have heard the term SMART objectives, specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic and timed. It's a great way when you're thinking about something to measure, whether it's for a grantor who will be making a grant to you, or really just working on your work plans. Make sure you use SMART objectives. And some of the key benefits of this new refreshed 4-point approach is it really puts the focus on economic development, and it really creates the potential for more change on Main Street. And I already said there's broad community engagement, tangible outcomes, and it really offers more organizational flexibility. Some of the 8 principles of success for all the work in your downtowns are listed here, and I always add a number 9 to this, which is patience. I think that any work we're doing in our downtown takes a great deal of patience. So let's go over a couple examples of integrating the refreshed 4-point approach and looking at specifically promotion, which really positions the district as a center of activity through community and special events. It markets the district's assets, retail promotions and marketing, and it enhances a positive image building and branding. And we're going to talk about all of this. Things you can do for special events, there's so many, and we will touch upon many of the types of special events you can do in your downtowns during this webinar. But you can see here some examples that they have listed. The Sliced Bread Saturday, a Boo Fest, Kids Christmas, social media's campaign, and then things you can do to market the district's retail businesses and assets. Tunes Under the Moon, Downtown, Wine Walk, and I'm sure many of you have events like this. Certainly there's Small Business Saturday, which is always held in November and is a national program sponsored by American Express. And we always try to get the word out about Small Business Saturday here at the Main Street office. So if, again, you're thinking about becoming a regional arts hub, you're going to think about how to reflect that both in organization and in your design committee and then in your promotion committee, which is what we're talking about today. So that could mean promoting an arts event or marketing with an arts thing, just arts theme. Just be creative and be bold. So now we're going to get into what is the new content since we did introduce the 4-point approach, and I am introducing it with every one of these webinars, and each week it's slightly different, but basically it's the same content. So for those of you that have been on previous webinars, I'm sorry to repeat that, but it is a new approach, so we want to make sure everybody is hearing it. So diving in deep into promotion. So how does promotion work? Well, promotion works with all of your committees, your organization committee. You could use it to raise funds for operational support. I think often within our Main Street organizations, the organization committee is the one who takes on the fundraiser. You can work with it on your design committee. You could do architectural tours, landscape tours, behind the scenes tours, window display contests, which some of you may have. And you can also look at it as economic restructuring or economic vitality by doing downtown employee appreciation events, producing a business directory, doing ribbon cutting events, and really just thinking about overall for the organization, these events give you a great opportunity to get media coverage, and they always instill pride, and usually they're pretty fun too. So some top 3 promotions challenges that I think many of our communities face. Sometimes communities are so satisfied with an event and they do the same thing year after year without trying to develop new ideas to keep the event fresh and new. It's also one of the hardest things to do to say, we're not going to hold that event anymore, but it's a healthy process to think about in your downtown about whether it's time for that event. Is it more work than it's worth? Another one of the challenges is not enough emphasis is placed on getting people into the downtown businesses during the promotional events. Lots of events bring people in, but many promotional events with a specific purpose of getting people into the stores isn't part of the consideration. So you really need to be thinking about that. Sometimes business owners get upset when you want to close the street for an event, but what can you do to counter that and say, well, here's how we're going to get people into your stores. In fact, it might be Rockland, and I know Gordon's on the webinar, where I believe during one of the events when you close the street, you have the store and retail owners actually have carts and things out on the street so that they're bringing the store out into the street, because it's a nice day and there's music playing and people don't want to go into the stores, but they will stop by, you know, your cart, whether it's food or things to sell. And I think that sometimes our downtowns also have a high focus on their signature events that only happen once or twice a year, but they may lack ideas for smaller promotional events or year-round events. So there's lots of opportunity out there for tweaking your events and creating new events that are manageable for your downtown. So some new ideas, I think you need to do things like identify your downtown assets, whether that's your businesses, your buildings. Think about what your assets are and why people will want to come downtown, and define your market niche in your downtown to position your downtown in the marketplace. And think about new image campaigns and retail promotions and special events to lure people downtown. The 5 essentials of a good festival, and I think this is such a great reminder, is music, food, overlapping activities, an intersection of activities for ages, and something free. I think there's a lot to think about here as far as you know, having chairs for people to sit down that might be a little older, and having something free. Those are just such good reminders. So even if you are having an event and it is, a lot of it is fee-based, maybe there's something you can offer for free. Or you can find something for someone to sponsor. I love the story of at the giant River Fest in Skowhegan, they have a rain tent where people can walk through when it's really hot, and they got the local car wash to sponsor it. So instead of charging people $1 to go through or whatever, they were able to pay for having that in their downtown event by the car wash, which was a great sponsor to have. There are really 3 types of promotions to keep in mind: special events, image building, and retail focused. And we're going to talk about all 3 of those and hopefully give you some ideas to take away with you. First, special events. This is an arts festival, and I'm not sure, it might be Brunswick, I'm not sure. Special events can be involve your local heritage and your arts organizations, your agriculture. There's so many great things to think about in relation to community heritage events and celebrating your history and it's your architecture. It's always something coming up. And I just heard from Rob Biggs that Saco Main Street has their Arts Festival coming up June 24th. So we know these things are happening in your downtowns. Thanks for sharing, Rob. Special events can also be a chance to develop unusual activities that enliven the public spaces and attract people. I think Biddeford's Winterfest is a pretty good example of that. I think that's the festival where they truck in a lot of snow and have ski jumpers and sledding and a whole bunch of things like that. You don't have to go that big. This example in front of you is really a chalk festival. What a simple, low-cost, fun thing to do in your downtown that really engages people of all ages. And you can, of course, have holiday special events, whether you're celebrating an unconventional holiday or whether you're looking at a special ethnic group or cultural group that's in your downtown. And then the second type of so promotion is really image building. And the 7 steps to really building an image campaign on Main Street is really, as we said, identifying the assets, compiling the information, looking at the data, figuring out your market information, a positioning statement, and maybe a marketing strategy. All these pieces really feed into the image of your Main Street. And I have another note from someone that I'm going to check in with all of you. Hold on. Gordon has chimed in. Rockland Summer Solstice Celebration, June 17th. Street vendors and musicians, but more importantly, retail and restaurants are strongly encouraged to merchandise their products and offer activities on the streets in front of their businesses. This is a family-friendly street party followed by an adult-only dock party on the waterfront. That's great, Gordon. Thank you so much. So that was what I was thinking of, obviously, what I mentioned about the businesses getting their goods and services out on the street. And I bet you, if I'm not mistaken, Gordon, this is a combination of having a free part of the festival as well as the adult-only dock party must probably have a fee associated with it. So thank you for sharing that example. So the elements of an image campaign are a lot of advertising, maybe developing collateral materials, working on media relations, and working on image building events. And we are going to go over a little bit of some of those pieces. The image in your downtown is really everything. It really can change the community attitude by focusing attention on your best assets. There's more news from Rockland here. No, this is Presque Isle. Thank you, Kim Smith, up there. Presque Isle's Downtown Revitalization Committee is beginning its 2nd annual downtown concerts and movie series with Rocking on the Riverside on June 1st. It's a free event and includes vendors, live music, and activities. I love the idea of downtown movies, and I love the idea of kind of creative placemaking with those downtown movies. You can do them on the sides of buildings. You can do them in parks. I know my downtown has that where I live. So that sounds great, Kim. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and we see this picture of the Strand right here in Rockland. So the image builds a unified image by targeting a clear and specific market niche with materials and activities. So you may have something specific in your downtown that you really have a market niche, whether it be local breweries or a certain art form. The image can generate fresh activity and really, again, establish your downtown as a place with community life. And of course, the image communicates progress and excitement and attracts more investors and shoppers into your downtown. Things like the environment matter with your image. We talked about this during our design webinar. Your buildings, your streets, your landscapes, utility, fixtures, cleanliness, this all matters into creating that image. The attitudes of the merchants and the business people and the property owners. You really want everyone to be positive about your downtown event and about the way your downtown looks. And it all goes into building the image. And then you really want to have goods and services that are diverse in creating that image and other uses in your downtown that really reflect quality and value to people visiting. And then finally, you have your image with a graphic image and really looking for a style and sophistication of all your promotional activities and materials that fits your downtown. So let's talk for a minute about brand. It's really the sum total of perceptions about what a nonprofit stands for, what it does, and how much social impact it is thought to achieve. Brands are so valuable because they make the life of the nonprofit so much easier. They open doors, attract support, create buzz, and bring resources that in turn allow the brand to flourish and become even stronger. Here is a whole selection of some of our Main Street Maine brands, and one downtown network community, our Presque Isle brand down at the bottom there. These organizations, most of these logos I think are still being used, but the point is there was thought that went into them. Augusta has that swoop related to probably the river. Waterville looks like it has a river. And Rocklands I love with the kind of ship history reflected in that logo as well. So you have to think about these things. And effective brand identity really will guide your organization's marketing strategy with ideas and messages and visual tools, and you can use it everywhere. You all know this. What's the #1 way people find out about you and your events? The old World Wide Web. Social marketing is no longer an option. It is a must for Main Streets. There are ways, there are all sorts of training programs on Facebook and whatnot, but it really is a must to create events and get the word out this way. Sometimes you can find one volunteer that is savvy in this regard and is willing to do it for you. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing or require staff. And then our third type of event after special events and image events is retail events. One of the most significant but often overlooked aspects of what makes life in our downtown special are our locally owned businesses. You all have them. Things you can do for retail events: do ribbon cuttings. It's a great way to do it. You can do it jointly with other organizations. Is it someone new? Is it somebody that's moved in? New inventory line? They're all reasons to have ribbon cuttings, which can be a great little PR story to share and a great event to welcome someone to your downtown. So business opportunities on Main Street, they really, the downtowns, as you know, are really where the small businesses thrive. In Maine, we have over 141,000 small businesses. And our Main Street communities have over 1,100 small businesses. They often hire local and support local people. They're really a critical piece of the mix. So some other types of retail promotions: you could cluster similar stores together for some sort of cooperative program. You could focus on the comparative aspects of retailing in the historic district. You could have a food event, an art walk where you have all the galleries stay open on a certain night, and you can see the examples, other examples down the right side there. You can have cross-retail promotion, where groups of businesses with complementary goods in one retail event or in coordinated displays. I've seen this on like a garden day, like where, you know, the downtown hardware store has all of their trowels and their seeds on sale, and then maybe that's when you unveil your local planters in the downtown, and then other retail stores may have their retail mix out that reflects, you know, working together all about a gardening theme or something like that. And you can see on the right side, it talks about joint window displays and things like that. And then niche promotions, really focusing the attention on a specific consumer targeted group. I can tell you they talk about, appreciation days or Dad's Day Out. One of my favorites was Squash Days, which was at the Gardner Farmers Market. And granted, it was just at the farmers market, but I just thought it was a great way to connect everyone. And I think everyone that came in, like, I don't know, squash was discounted or something. It was just a fun, silly promotion. Candlelight shopping and night with the art walk. You got to think about your events and how they relate to the nighttime too. Definitely celebrate destination businesses. This is obviously a hardware store in Sanford. I know in Belfast they have the oldest shoe store in the entire country that is still selling shoes, and that is a pretty amazing thing. So you may have businesses like that that are pretty special as well. Promoting your local food shed and your farmers markets. The local foods is really an amazing movement. So it really works with your restaurants, your farmers markets, and your food pantries. Downtowns are where entrepreneurialism thrives. Unfortunately, Barrels in the top there in Waterville is no longer open, but it was an amazing business. And I'm looking at the bottom, and that might even be the Belfast shoe store I was talking about. There's some fun signs that you can use in your downtown. Think about ways to get people to shop in your downtowns. And for every $100 spent at a locally owned business, $45 stays in the local economy, creating jobs and expanding the city's tax base. Create and publish a business directory and a calendar of events, either in print or online or both. This is just another thing you can do as part of retail promotion that really helps your retail businesses in your downtown. Now I'm going to shift gears to talk a little bit about partners, strong partners in promotion and how that works and what kind of opportunities can you think about with partners. Partnering opportunities, your arts groups, whether it's the studio, the clay play, or the galleries, and having some sort of event surrounding art in your community. Or what about the university? What can you do with your university? This is an example with the University of Maine, Augusta. They accepted the historic Gannett building on Water Street to move their art and architecture program downtown. That was a huge, wonderful thing that they did, and really keeping your downtown aware of those things and promoting those partnerships. I believe the Augusta Downtown Alliance had a great deal of work with the University of Maine Augusta, saying you need to be downtown. You know, you need to be in the historic buildings for your architecture program. How about with the Masons? This is another example in downtown Augusta. They had an evening at 313 Water Street, which was a dinner theater, and they hadn't used this space up in the upper floors of the Masonic Hall in many, many years, and the Downtown Alliance worked hard to clean it with them, pick it up, and have a real event up there that actually raised money for the Downtown Alliance. So think about those underutilized spaces in your downtowns. Here was a gubernatorial debate that was held in the Bangor Opera House. So how else can your spaces downtown be used for things just because it's great to have them being used and in your downtown? I'm going to give you a little bit of examples from Bath, which is one of our Main Street communities. GAMSA stands for the Great American Main Street Association winner. Since 2001, Bath has been part of the Main Street approach, and they really have turned downtown Bath into a vibrant cultural and commercial district. So if you're planning an event, this is kind of a little case study of Bath and what they think about. You really need to think about building traffic, community pride. What's the purpose of having a new event? Is it, again, which one of those categories does it fit into? Does it fit into image or retail or a special event? Are you trying to change the community's attitude about something? Well, the first thing you need to do is look at your assets. So in the case of Bath, There's a wealth of historic architecture, a long history of shipbuilding, and a waterfront location. And then you need to think about some tactics to create year-round events and get the attention from the public and the press. So you really need to have some sort of hook. Creating and leveraging events offers a platform for you to talk about your town and your downtown. So this is a list of many of the events Bath has. I believe this slide is a little bit old. I should have taken off Blarney Days because I don't think they're having that event anymore. This is one of those hard decisions that we mentioned early on that, you know, sometimes communities have to be willing to let an event go. So one of the strategies is strengthen numbers. Pool your money from your local businesses for media buys or sell co-op advertising. To promote these events, Bath asked businesses to share the cost of buying advertising, and then they encouraged businesses to have their own ads as well. They did a co-op advertising together, so everybody chipped in, and it's a great way to make your dollars, your marketing dollars, go a little bit further. And as we mentioned, thinking collaboratively and partnerships, collaboration is really the key. Bath really embraces the fact that the whole is greater than its parts. They really looked and had other cooperative marketing initiatives. Instead of just buying co-op advertising, they did a gift of Bath, which was like a gift card that would work at any number of retailers. They do a brochure and a map of the downtown together and a dining guide. They do a Christmas calendar together. So they really think of ways to make their power a little bit bigger. And again, there are plenty of tools out there to help bring people downtown for the community and retail events. Press releases are also distributed to local and regional media. Bath, the Main Street program, also maintains pages for their events on their website, and then they have a calendar of Bath-wide events. They send out a weekly e-news or blog to about 1,000 subscribers, and they post to Facebook. And they have events entered on another online calendar. So some of that is maybe, you know, this is one of our Main Street programs with a paid director, so it is, they have the capacity to do this, but I think our smaller network communities can choose little things to do that kind of move you in that direction. So public relations, I thought it was interesting. Bath formed an ad hoc committee that was formed specifically to do public relations research. And it was, public relations outreach. And this resulted in stories in the Times Record, which is Brunswick-based, Port City Life, the Boston Globe, and a Down East magazine special section. Plus, they were included in a Yankee Magazine Touring Maine article. And they also put ideas on visitmaine.com, which is the Maine Office of Tourism's site. So basically, they took this little ad hoc group and they said, we really need to work on our public relations. Like, what are the things that we can do and what can we divide up among the 5 of us or however many people they were? And they each did a little thing. They listed an event, or they actually called and said, you know, to the Times Record, will you do a story on this? And by dividing it up, they were able to get it done. And then, as we mentioned, branding is still important. In the process of executing all of these efforts, Bath realized that they really needed a cohesive platform of branding. So they worked with an advertising agency and they reviewed and updated their brand. And that really, it was a way for them to continue their visual ID about being the heritage of the city of ships, which is really their moniker, but they now have a more fluid and modern tagline called Maine's Cool Little City, which makes people stop and consider, and it really keeps Bath focused and ties everything together. So they did a rebranding, and that is a possibility as you get into this kind of work. And they did some print ads together. Again, they pooled resources to purchase an ad in Down East magazine to be able to do that. And they also have done brochures and displays. The new branded brochures were part of a media kit. So sponsorship, I think you need to think really creatively. This is actually sponsorship, old sponsorship from here, because you can see it's from Roxanne Eflin when she was director here. And this is the way we, in the past, and similarly this year, I did the same thing, having different levels of sponsorship. And I think, like I said, I love that example from Skowhegan of getting the local car wash to sponsor the spray tent. And I bet in your events you can think of other similar ideas of, oh, maybe so-and-so would sponsor that one thing for our festival. So think creatively about it. It definitely helps the bottom line to have sponsors with your events. So the promotions committee, which you could have a standalone promotions committee, and then we have some of our programs that actually have a committee that is just used to plan one event. So they may meet and just work on that one event for a short period of time, and then, like I said, other organizations have a full-blown promotions committee. But no matter how you structure it in your downtown, you need to have work plans, and you need to work on consensus to bring everything together. So it's an important committee to have in place. You have usually, obviously, a chair who's going to recruit members, run meetings, really forge consensus, as I said, and they represent board on the committee, and they usually represent the committee to the board. That's another key thing. And I mentioned work plans. Whether your committee is a standalone committee or whether it is a committee focused on one event, you've got to have a work plan. It will just make the work get done better with less stress. It's a way to divide up volunteer commitments. When people see that, oh, this is the task and no one has signed up, and it looks like a small task, hopefully people will sign up to get that work done. So are your work plans effective, and what's your promotions committee's report card look like? These are some things to think about. The one I will highlight is the fourth one down. Did the retail events have a measurable impact on sales? It's a great thing to do. Whether you do after your event, do anecdotal merchant conversations. I don't know how Gordon does it in Rockland with the event we were talking about earlier, but it's a great way to just head out into the downtown, which you need to be doing anyway, and say, hey, how did it go for you on Saturday? Was your business up? Was your business down? Were there any challenges? It's a great way to gather information about how your event worked. You could certainly do a more formal SurveyMonkey or something like that, but those conversations are really worth having. Some other things to keep in mind, did you have a debriefing meeting? So that's the third one down. I think that's also really key as you improve your events, fix any things that didn't go well, you know, have those hard discussions about, wow, we worked on this for 9 months and we didn't have anybody. Is it time to let an event go? Those debriefing meetings held as close to the event as you can are key. I think Bath told me once after a big event that they had like a little wine and cheese meeting for their committee to really just talk about how it went. However you want to structure it, it's really great to gather that feedback. And have members of your promotions committee been thanked or honored in some way? I have managed volunteers for many years in different capacities, and I think thank you is just really important. And whether it's, you know, something that you do during National Volunteer Month, or whether it's something that you do with handwritten thank you notes after the event, or recognizing them, or serving them wine and cheese as a thank you, whatever works for you. And documenting and measuring success, here are some things to think about. The attendance numbers, number of vendors, this should all be put in a spreadsheet if possible, or in the notes of the event folder to keep track of this thing. Value of media coverage, I'm happy to help you with that if you're trying to actually get a hard figure. You could say, if you're trying to get funding from your municipality and you have tracked your media coverage, you could actually say to your municipality, do you know that we had this many articles written about our major event, and the cost of buying that would be thus and such. I can help you calculate that. And then as a result of that, we brought this many people downtown, which generated this much economic impact. So you can use these numbers with funders, with your supporters, with your businesses. It's a great thing to tell them, did you know we generated this much media support, and this is how much it would have cost if we had to pay for it. And those are those articles. I'm not talking about paid ads. I'm talking about articles. Let's talk for a minute about volunteers. I know this is something that you all need to pull off your events. So it really is making sure all the partners are at the table and involving the entire community, and really focusing on, you know, your vision and your work plan and keeping your meetings fresh and really thinking of a way to engage new volunteers as well as keeping the ones that you've had for many years happy and excited. Some ideas of volunteer recruitment. I'll go down to the third one, host an information night. I know Belfast does this. They had like find out about volunteer opportunities in downtown Belfast, and they held it after work hours in a local pub in downtown, and I think they had a number of organizations that use local volunteers, did it all together. But you could do it for your own organization or partner someone else. And then down at the bottom, recruit, reward, and retain. I think that's the great methodology to include. 96% of nonprofits report a need for skilled volunteers, but many of you have trouble finding the people to fill those needs. American work industry still needs seniors, but you can use seniors or others that have finished their work careers to really make an even bigger difference. They can come into your organization and really help you in ways that you didn't know. It could be accounting. It could be doing Facebook posts for you, all sorts of possibilities. Volunteering adds years to your life. These are all the kind of great stats about or facts about why you want to volunteer. It helps us maintain our mental well-being and can actually make us smarter. I did not know that there was that statistic. Senior volunteers bridge the generational gap. Families are very important to, I think, your downtown work in some capacity. And senior volunteers can be flexible with their schedules. And volunteers, this is just a great reminder. They want to have fun. They want to give back. They want to make a difference in your downtown. And the one I always think here is the second one is the one that I personally embrace. Volunteers have knowledge and experience to share. I feel like every time I meet a volunteer, I try hard to think about where is their skill set and how does it fit with what I need. And I really believe that every person who walks through your door has something in their volunteer wheelhouse that will benefit you. Lots of ways to thank volunteers. Whether you have a feature in your newsletter, give them a Main Street or an event t-shirt. All of these slides will be available. I think I mentioned that afterwards because I know I'm going through them quickly. I just don't want to read them all to you. Provide them opportunities to attend conferences and workshops. I think that's another great opportunity you can give a volunteer. Media relations, something to think about, and an important piece of you having your events. So you should have some sort of media or press list. I'm finding in my work here that the old-fashioned printed press release or emailed press release isn't as effective to send for me statewide as it is to contact the local paper and say, would you do an article about this? We were hosting a Downtown Institute in Damascotta, and we had a much better time with calling the local newspaper and saying, hey, we're doing a workshop on preservation and we really want Newcastle and Damascotta local people to come. And they were like, great, send us the information. And we ended up with an article in the paper. So that little bit of extra effort is worth it. And providing story ideas. You all have stories, and your local newspapers are always looking for stories. Don't forget radio. It's really an underused medium, and sometimes if you have a budget for actually purchasing radio time, it's very cost effective compared to some other mediums. And don't be a pest. Don't whine about the negative coverage because it really won't serve you well. You have to have a long-term positive relationship with the press. And you got to survive a news conference, which can be potentially stressful. So when you put it all together, as you all know, because I end every presentation with this, what do you get? You get economic reinvestment in your downtown, recycled buildings, vibrant cultural centers, quality of life and quality of place, and community pride. So what kind of questions do we have? If you have any questions today, please go ahead to your chat feature and let me know what I could answer for you. We'll just wait a few minutes to see if anybody has any questions. Oops. Thank you, Gordon. And Brooke, I see that you said you lost the audio, and I'm so sorry about that. I hope that no one else did. And thank you, Gordon. Gordon from Rockland. And on this last slide is so fun. Those are fish in downtown Gardner. They're there right now. It's not part of an event, but it's part of sprucing up their downtown for the spring because the flowers weren't out, and so they did the painted fish, which is a great fun thing to do. A couple more minutes to see if anybody has any questions, and if I don't see anybody with questions, I would like to remind you that our next webinar is next week, June 1st, on economic vitality, and it will be next Thursday at 12 noon. You can register at the mdf.org/events. And then we also have a really important event coming up on June 16th in Bucksport called our Network Jamboree. We've never done it before, and we're really excited about it. It includes lunch and is going to really be highlighting some work from the town manager in Bucksport related to their work in downtown, and then we will be doing some great roundtable work sessions with all of our network communities. So I encourage all of you to figure out how to come. So with that, since I see no more questions, I am going to sign off for the day. Look for our email. Whoops, John Burns. Oh, lost. Okay. Sorry, John Burns. Thank you all for coming, and I really appreciate you being here today, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.